Why, for 4 years, did this feminist government, or I should say so-called feminist government, do absolutely nothing when they had the power to do something and the information in their hands?
This is incompetence. Rachel Thomas destroys Trudeau, stating it's taken 4 years for this government to act on this Hockey Canada scandal. Also in news, Tim Hortons and Canadian Tire cut sponsorship ties with Hockey Canada. Here's the clip.
The Honourable Member for Bellechasse-les-Etchemins-Lévis. Mr. Speaker, the Liberal government decided to protect Hockey Canada the other day rather than women who are victims of sexual abuse. The government has known since 2018 that there was a problem at Hockey Canada, and they have blindly turned an eye to it. These women who are victims have been abandoned by Hockey Canada, and we want to know why this government has closed its eyes on these many cases of sexual assault, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Minister of Sport. Mr. Speaker, the government is taking all the necessary action to hold the executives of Hockey Canada to account. We're looking back to 2016 to get all the necessary information to see how public funds were used to solve cases of sexual assault. We also made sure that Hockey Canada has to look at ethics in sport and allow the commissioner to do an investigation. We will not give up. Hockey Canada will be accountable for these cases.
Honourable Member for Peterborough-Kawartha.
Mr. Speaker, this Liberal government has known for 4 years about the heinous allegations of sexual assault against 8 players from Team Canada. Hockey Canada received $14 million from 2020 to 2021 from this Liberal government. Hockey Canada has paid millions to pay off sexual assault claimants. My question is for the Prime Minister, who claims to be a feminist. How is covering up sexual assault helping women?
The Honourable Minister for Sports.
Mr. President, after hearing today's story about how the Conservatives are mobilizing organizations that promotes violence against women, it's a little bit shameful, the questions that they're asking today.
The Honourable Member for Abitibi-Temiskaming. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Hockey Canada has set up not one, but at least 2 funds to cover sexual assault cases. We all agree this is unacceptable. Last June, we all agreed to support a block motion calling for an independent inquiry into the way Hockey Canada handles these complaints. An independent inquiry would shed light on what happened and also provide recommendations that could apply to all sports and their federations. Will the Prime Minister finally launch this independent inquiry, or are we going to have to wait and put up with this organization that's out of touch? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Everyone knows that what Hockey Canada is doing is unacceptable. It's inconceivable that the leadership there thinks they can continue to operate in the same way. Their federal funding has been cut off, and organizations like Hockey Quebec have already cut ties with Hockey Canada. I think the only people who think there's a future for Hockey Canada are the people in the organization, because Canadians have lost confidence in the organization. They need to wake up and be replaced. The Honourable Member for Abitibi-Temiskaming. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I hear the Prime Minister, what he's saying. The Hockey Quebec has disavowed Hockey Canada and suspended their financial contribution to pressure the organization to clean up its act. The Prime Minister should up the ante, too. He should launch an independent public inquiry into Hockey Canada's handling of sexual assault cases. They need to know that everything they've done will be found out and made public. And in order to get this done, I have to insist, when will the Prime Minister call for an independent inquiry? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, Hockey Canada no longer has any credibility or legitimacy. As Prime Minister and as a parent, we're all proud of our national winter sport, and we will always make it very clear that what Hockey Canada has done is unacceptable, and the sooner they get it, that the jig is up, the better it'll be for all our children so they can continue to play hockey and parents can put their confidence in the organizations.
Again, the honourable member for Lethbridge.
In 2018, the government was made aware of a horrific allegation. It was an allegation with regards to gang rape against 8 members of the Hockey Canada team. This government was made aware, but chose to do nothing. Absolutely nothing. Canadian tax dollars continued to flow to the organization. Zero accountability was put in place. It was swept under the rug. That is until 4 years later. Why did this government fail to act when it first came to light?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, as a government, we have always taken allegations of sexual misconduct seriously in any organizations. We have always acted, and we will continue to do so. What Canadians are seeing continuing to come out of Hockey Canada is absolutely unacceptable. Parents across the country, like myself, who's had kids in hockey, parents, families, young kids, we care about hockey in this country. We know we need to see a better organization than that. Hockey Canada's tone deafness to the fact that they have lost the confidence of Canadians needs to end, which is why we've stopped funding them, which is why we're calling for change.
The honourable member for Lethbridge.
With all due respect, I didn't ask as to whether or not there was still support for hockey in this country. I recognize that that's a national sport and we're proudly behind it. However, we should not be proudly behind the behavior that has been exhibited by members of the team. And so I'm asking the Prime Minister, why for 4 years did this feminist government, or I should say so-called feminist government, do absolutely nothing when they had the power to do something and the information in their hands? Nothing.
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Already imposed some of the strictest penalties and limits on funding towards Hockey Canada. Right now, it is for Hockey Canada to understand that they have completely lost any trust or faith by Canadians in it, and the organization must be transformed, or like we're seeing with Hockey Quebec, saying that they're not going to engage with Hockey Canada anymore. More and more organizations across the country are simply going to turn their back on this organization that is not worthy of building strong futures for our kids.
The honourable member for